I hope you're on.
Are we ready?
We're ready.
Okay, so what I want to do today is I want to discuss Birchas Ilanos for a few minutes. I want to finish chapter 432 and Tov Lamed Beis. Begin Tov Lamed Gimel. I want to spend the rest of the time on the Kiddushim of the Rebbe Rashab regarding Pesach. Anyone know why we want to discuss this today?
Yes, we do.
Nisan. Today is the passing, the website of the Rebbe Rashab passed away in the year 1920, Tafresh Pei, on Beis Nisan. So we're going to go through.
Anybody want to say his Tehillim? It's Tehillim, it's Yud.
Okay, so let's begin first with Birchas Ilanos. So Birchas Ilanos, it's recorded in Shulchan Aruch, in Orach Chaim, I believe it's chapter 126, that we begin, starting from the month of Nisan, one is able to say a blessing over trees that produce fruit. And so we all know about this, and there's a few things I want to emphasize on this mitzvah. So first of all, the idea of it is that we benefit from fruits, and aside from saying a Bayer Pri Ha'etz, it is also befitting that we give a general blessing to God at the start of the fruit season, spring, summer, for the general concept of benefiting from trees and from fruits. So that's the concept of this blessing that we say. The nusach of the blessing, Baruch Hashem Kinu Melech Ha'elam, Shleichisa Ba'elam Eiklum, U'Barabai, Briyas Tovis, Vilames Tovis, Lanos Pem B'nei Adam. I highly suggest for everyone to already place the bracha on their phone in a way that they can get to right away, because of the following next halacha I'll say. But prior, I want to say the Kabbalistic meaning behind it. The Kabbalistic meaning behind Birchas Ilanos is recorded is that in the month of Nisan, just like all the yeshivas are now off, not ours, of course, but all the other yeshivas are off, they have Bein Hazmanim, and they have vacation, so to say. So too many souls in heaven, I don't know in which dormitories, Gan Eden Elyon, Gan Eden Atachten, maybe a little bit from Gehenna, that I haven't seen, but many souls get a vacation and come down here for little month vacation. And they're here in the month of Nisan for different tikkunim. And where do they go? To the fruit trees. They go to the fruit trees. Right? This is a nice choice. They go to the fruit trees, and when we say this bracha, we elevate those souls, and I guess their vacation, the rejuvenation of the vacation is complete, and they can continue back wherever they were in Gan Eden, the Tacht, Gan Eden, Elyon, etc. So that is the Kabbalistic meaning of this bracha. It's a very deep and special meaning. And based on this Kabbalistic reason, there's a few things that are recorded in Pesachim, and that is that some Pesachim rule you can only say the bracha in the month of Nisan. So if you saw a blossoming tree, meaning a tree that's blossoming a fruit, prior to Nisan or after Nisan, you can't do the bracha, because the whole purpose is to refine the souls, and the souls didn't get their vacation time yet. They're not off yet. Only when Nisan starts are they off, and when Nisan is over, they go back automatically. So, and that's the way practically rule, we're chayshish for this opinion that you can only do Birchas Ilanos in the month of Nisan, and not prior, not after. Others argue, and some don't follow this approach and do say the bracha, but nonetheless, in Chabad we follow only in Nisan. For this reason as well, those who live in the southern hemisphere, and they experience a summer that is in the middle of Tishrei, that is in the middle of the northern hemisphere's winter, then they cannot say the bracha. As when do their blossomings occur? Not in Nisan. So they can't say the bracha ever. So if you ever plan on moving to Australia, Brazil, or any of these countries where you have an opposite order of seasons, you can say goodbye to Birchas Ilanos, do it for the last time, unless you plan on visiting Israel or anywhere else in the northern hemisphere in Nisan.
Souls don't come visit.
According to Kabbalah, it's only in Nisan that it happens, and only in blossoming trees, so they don't come to the southern hemisphere. Okay. The point I wanted to bring up is that to remind us is that the K'tzais HaShulchan, Rav Chaim Noah, has an inference from the Alter Rebbe's Shulchan Aruch. In a Shulchan Aruch, we don't have this chapter, but in his Siddur, Seder Birchas Hanenin, we do. And there he writes a wording that's a little different than the wording in the Shulchan Aruch of the Machaber, that the first time you see the tree, you say the blessing. Instead of what the Mechaber wrote, you say the blessing only one time. The Mechaber writes, you say the blessing only one time. The Alter Rebbe writes, the first time you see the tree, you say the blessing. Now, if you don't pay attention to the nuance, you'll just run over the difference. But in truth, there's a major difference here. The Mechaber is saying that you can only say it one time, but when, you get to decide when. So you can choose if you saw a nice, beautiful tree with fruits, but you would like to say it on a particular orchard, then you can wait and say it then. As long as it will only be one time. But according to the Alter Rebbe's wording, the first time you see a tree, you say the blessing. You cannot delay it for another time. So if you happen to be passing, and here in Sfas we have a lot of fruit trees, and you happen to gaze at a fruit tree and you see the blossoming, even if you don't see the blossoming, even if it's, so long as the fruit hasn't reached the point of ripeness for Shechianu, you can still say Birchas Ilanis on it. So you happen to see it and you look at it, I'm not talking about a mere re'il, just a mere sighting. But you gaze at it, then according to this inference from the Alter Rebbe Siddur, you would have to say the blessing, and if you don't, you lose the bracha. And practically, we are cheshish for this, and therefore as follows. Therefore, I'm already stating this now. This is the second day possible. My family already did it yesterday, because as I'm saying this halach to my kids, we happened to pass by a fruit tree. Had to get in the way. I should have known better to go a different route. So we said the bracha right there on that fruit tree. It was a nice fruit tree, lots of fruits. Nothing wrong.
You have to have flowers or fruits of enough.
As I said, blossom. It has to be the blossoming of a fruit tree. Blossom of a non-fruit tree doesn't help. Okay. So if you want to say in a nice, beautiful acorn tree, you can't. But a fruit tree, you can say. Okay, it has to be the blossoming of a fruit tree.
The blossom has to open.
No.
You see the bud?
No,
you see the bud?
Yeah.
How do you tell the difference?
If it's a fruit tree or
if it's just a blossom.
What do you mean? You see a bud. Any tree that grows fruit has a little stub, a little bud that grows out of it, like the top of the esrog, like the piton. That's what it starts off as. It's this little bud.
And that shows that it's a fruit.
How do you know if it's a fruit? Well, yes, I agree with you. You do have to. If you don't see any fruit on the tree, then please verify this is a fruit tree, not just flowers. Oh, right. So I don't know. You have to speak to botanist. Not my field of expertise.
We have a pear tree that I've noticed has been very colorfully, or it's white flowers basically. So those white flowers are already evidence that
flowers. That's like giving the flowers before the wedding. The wedding, it didn't happen. You have to wait for the actual.
Oh, so flowers don't indicate.
We need the actual bud of the future fruit.
Oh, the fruit.
What are the flowers doing?
We need the bud of the fruit.
Oh. It's not connected to the flower.
I don't know. How long is there a difference? I'm clueless in this area. Is there a time frame between the flowering and the budding?
You have the base of the flower. You have a bud. The base of the flower. You have a bud.
Okay, so if that's my question.
It may not have grown yet, but it's there.
If there are flowers, does that mean for certain there is also a bud?
That's my question. I don't know.
That's not a question for halacha. That's a question
No, I
for.
understand.
I don't know.
But if there's
I would
fruit on the
assume
tree,
different trees have different rules.
But if there's fruit on the tree, there's no problem.
As long as there's at least one fruit who has not developed to the point of shechianu, you can still say it. But the best thing is to say it on the actual bud, and you can look out. When we passed by the tree, we looked out.
Go ahead quickly.
But you saw flowers or you saw buds?
You're recording.
Or just Korach is very specific. It says Aaron's right.
I don't know. My wife needs a
body,
car, and I have.
If I recall properly.
No. But I have the car here.
Good. Take it outside. We're waiting for you. If you need to make a phone call.
No, I don't need it.
Okay. So we looked for the budding, and we did find buds. We found many buds. You just have to look for it. At first you only see fruits, but you will see, most likely, you will find buds. In any event, so the point is that we're very makbid to say it the first time you see it. Now, what happens if you didn't? You already looked at the tree, and you didn't just see it. You gazed at it, and now you're coming the day after. What do I do now? So the answer to this is a difficult question, and what I direct people to do is the following. Get a kid that's below bar mitzvah and teach him the bracha next to the tree. So you're basically taking a ride on the child. So by a child, there's no din of bracha levatala. So whether he already said or didn't already say it, it doesn't matter. Okay, you're educating him in the bracha. That's mutter to do. So if you already saw the fruit tree blossoming, you didn't say the bracha at that time, either because you didn't know the halacha or you didn't know The nusach of the bracha, that's why I said put it on your phone. It's a nusach that's not printed everywhere. The English sitter doesn't have it. At least it doesn't have it in the bracha section that I looked at. So have it on the accessible to your phone, so you can just press a button and get it when you see a tree. And but if you didn't, then the best thing would be to get a child under bar mitzvah, educate him the bracha, buy the fruit tree, and then you're good to go.
He can cover you, huh?
Yes, you're teaching him the bracha. You're saying Baruch, Baruch, Ato, Ato. So you're teaching him the bracha. On the one hand, you're teaching him the bracha. So whoever says you were ready, you can't say it anymore. I'm not saying it. I'm teaching him the bracha. And whoever says you didn't say it yet, I'm saying it right now.
So you can't be Yotzi on a major, not a minor, but if he's 14 or 24,
no.
You can't be
Under
Yotzi
bar bas mitzvah.
because you have to do the teaching. You have to utter the words.
You can only educate someone the bracha when he's not chayev if he's a child.
So you're uttering the words, but you're not basically. Okay, so once, according to Alter Rebbe, you go by the tree and you actually gaze at it and you don't do the bracha, that's it. You can't do it unless you do this little trick.
It's like similar to I ate a fruit, I ate a shachianu fruit, and I didn't say shachianu. Can I say it the next time? The answer is no.
Okay, now about the gazing issue. So I walk by this pear tree every day, including this morning. Let's say those flowers really mean there's buds. I don't stare at it on purpose because I wanted to show what I'm doing.
You did. Then it's not. Then
but I see it peripherally. I certainly see it.
Yeah, we see many things peripherally. We don't pay attention, as if we didn't see it.
Okay.
We're talking about a real gaze.
And women are supposed to do this too?
A woman can say the bracha. I did hear recently of a discussion according to Sfardim that maybe it's a bracha she'ezman grama, and women cannot say a bracha she'ezman grama. The bottom line is that yes, women, for sure Ashkenazi women, and as far as I ever knew, also Sephardi women.
You allowed to stick around and have coffee with the souls that are there and have a little farbrengen or anything? Can you talk to them? Is that allowed?
You can talk to the souls, and they talk back to you. You can, put yourself into one of the places there that have a lot of asylums.
You just said that mitzvah was man grama by a woman.
No, I say the Mechaber rules.
The Sfardim say it's forbidden to say it?
The Mechaber rules of the mitzvah sessions. Man grama, a woman are patur from, they cannot say the blessing.
It's not us.
They can't say the bracha. That's the ruling of the Mechaber. So some Sephardi Rabbanim discuss, are women allowed to say the bracha? Sephardi women are allowed to say the bracha. So the bottom line is that even on that rule, many argue, and as far as I know, I have to research this further, as far as I know, there is no issue at all for even a Sephardi woman to say this blessing. Okay, and that's it with Birchas Silanos. And if I remember, we'll send out an extra email, a summary on all Birchas Silanos either tonight or tomorrow. Whoever's on the list.
There are opposite the red that should be ready.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, we were in the middle of chapter 432, Tov Lamed Beis. We finished the chapter inside and we were discussing on the outside. So the last thing we concluded with 2 points, and I want to review 2 of those points to emphasize a new idea. The first point was that we stated that once a person says the bracha and the medika, the Mechaber rules, he's not to talk of any irrelevant, that was an emphasis we said, of any irrelevant matters to the bedika until after the bedika is included, as the Pri Megadim adds, until after he actually says the bittul kol chamira v'chamia. He shouldn't talk of any irrelevant matters. Anything that's relevant is much for him to talk about. Now, the reason behind that, the way I explained it, I looked it up again. It's a little bit different. So it's like this. The Mechaber, we read inside, he holds that there's no problem here of hefsek to talk because you already started the mitzvah. Can I talk in the middle of eating? Of course you can. It's not a hefsek in the bracha once you started eating. But he says the reason is so you pay attention. When you're busy talking on the phone, doing other things, it's like driving and texting at the same time. So checking and texting at the same time, he knows you're not going to pay attention. You can miss a huge cake because you were texting while you were checking. So therefore the Mechaber says, for purposes of concentration, no disturbances, no hefsekim at all until you're done the bedika. The Alter Rebbe, however, takes a different approach. The Alter Rebbe, and this is what we said yesterday, but it's a little differently the way I explained, as he says in size, is that it's possible, some learn, it's a machlekes, but some places can learn that the mitzvah of bedika is one big mitzvah that's not completed until you're done your entire property. So you actually have not yet done the mitzvah. It's like I haven't yet put on tefillin fully. I started, but I haven't yet fully put it on until I fully put it on. So if you talk before you fully put it on, then it's like talking before you finish the mitzvah, and it could be you would have to say the bracha again. So because we suspect for this approach, therefore he says you're not allowed to talk l'chatchila of irrelevant matters because it could sabotage the bracha. Bottom line, we don't rule this way, but therefore if a person went ahead and did talk, took a phone call, etc., they would just continue as usual. They would not repeat the bracha of al bir chametz. Another point that we discussed last week, and that is regarding if a person has to check various properties. So we said the Alter Rebbe rules, the Mechaber rules, and the Alter Rebbe rules that it is not a problem for the person to go to his various properties, and that will all be included under that same blessing. Although initially, when you first say the blessing, you have to check the property you are currently in, the area you're currently in, as you're not allowed to make a hefsek of going from place to place between a bracha and a mitzvah. So I want to elaborate on a few points on this idea. This concept that moving from one area to another area is considered an interval is not unique to this halacha b'dikas chametz, but is actually universal regarding a blessing and a mitzvah, and often even regarding within a mitzvah itself. I'll tell you where else it's discussed. Chapter 8 discussed it regarding tzitzis. We mentioned this last week. If a person is putting on 2 pairs of tzitzis, let's say talis katan, talis gadol, then if he went from one area to another area, let's say from inside to outside, he walked from his home to the shul, then even if he had in mind the bracha of the talis gadol when he put on his talis katan, or the opposite, he left his talis katan in shul, and when he put on his talis gadol, he had in mind his talis katan. He walked to shul to put on his talis katan. It would no longer cover his talis katan, as the leaving from inside to outside, or vice versa, nullifies and stops the effect of the blessing on the next mitzvah, the next beged. That's in chapter 8. We have a similar idea regarding the laws of birchas hanenin. If a person is drinking a cup of water instead of shahakal in his drinking, let's say, a coffee. He bought a coffee in the store, and an iced coffee, and he's drinking it, and he said the bracha inside the store, and now he's walking outside and he's drinking it outside. He would have to say a new blessing because he has changed from inside to outside. It's considered a hefsek in the bracha. The bracha stops counting for the future consumption because he made this switch of areas. So here we're discussing birchas hamitzvahs. It's the same idea. When you say a bracha on a mitzvah, you cannot switch areas until you fulfill the actual mitzvah, and that's why we emphasize until you start checking, you cannot go to another area once the bracha is said. But if you've already started checking, the Alter Rebbe rules everything's included. So your car's included, your office is included. The Chayadim Mishabur rule, you have to say a new bracha even there. But we don't rule that way. We rule like the Alter Rebbe that it's all included. Why? Because it's all one inclusive mitzvah. It was all included in the mitzvah. In other words, the mitzvah was not check your current home. The mitzvah was check all your property. So if I say a bracha of al bir chametz of all my property, then all those areas, all those places are all included in that initial mitzvah. So it's no such thing as a hefsek, no such thing as an interval of walking in such a case.
You make the bracha on the coffee inside the shop. And
that's very different because there's no mitzvah to drink coffee in the whole world.
Okay.
Is there such a mitzvah? Would I transgress anything if I drank the coffee just in the shop?
Good point. Okay.
Okay.
So you shouldn't rather than walk with like a drink or anything else. You should never walk like.
If you do, I'm not telling you what to do or not to do. I'm just saying if you do decide to do so for whatever reason, you would have to say another bracha. And since we have an isser of bracha and tzricha, what I do in those situations, I simply wait till I leave the shop. Let's say I want to chew gum. Yeah, I wait till I leave my house, so I don't end, or I chew it much time before, and that there's no juice left.
Could you make a bracha on a coffee on the outside on the street here, and then you can walk with it as long as you're always outside? Can you walk to another place like
once you're outside? Yes, it's continuous. That's fine. But let's say I make a bracha on a coffee. I make a coffee downstairs here.
Yeah.
It's so delicious, I can't restrain myself. I say a bracha, I drink it, and now I'm outside, and I still can't restrain myself. I want to take another sip, I say another bracha, and then I come up here, I say a third bracha.
Okay, so as long as you're outside's continuous. Okay, I always wondered about that.
Okay, so with that said, we also have a discussion that I recently brought up regarding washing hands over here. It's the same kind of idea, that initially a person, and the Alter Rebbe writes in chapter 166, in parentheses, that initially a person is to make sure to wash hands negelvasser in the same room that he's saying hamaitzi. As if he washes hands in one area, let's say outside, and then he says hamaitzi inside, that's considered a hefsek, an interval between the washing and the eating of the hamaitzi. And that's why the best thing is either A, to wash hands in the room, if you're able to, or 2, to bring a kazayas of bread with you to the washing station and eat a kazayas. But to eat less than a kazayas is a much bigger problem, because bidi evid, if you washed out here and you walked inside and said, "Amaitzi," you're good. We don't say your Untitled Chapter is nullified. So it's not really the same thing. It's not a bracha and eating. If I said Amaitzi outside and walked in, then it would be a problem. But if Untitled Chapter, I sanctify my hands. It's a done deal. I said the bracha outside. It's done. Now I'm ready to eat bread. So it's not the same idea, and therefore bidi evid it would still count, and you wouldn't have to rewash. However, if I said Amaitzi on bread and then I walked from outside to inside, that bracha now stops, and I would have to say Amaitzi. And this is an area where I have a little bit of a doubt about, because based on the laws of Eruvin, the steps create a mechitza. It's called, in the Lashon of the Gemara in Eruvin, it's considered a tel hamislaket. Tel hamislaket is where you have a slope of 4 amas, it's considered like a wall. So here we have it from both sides, so we can consider as if that there's a wall, and then there's a hovering, so it's almost like a room. So maybe this area right here is just another room, and from room to room it's not a problem. The bottom line is that the best thing would be just to have to eat a kazayis of Amaitzi, try the kazayis of Amaitzi, or wash downstairs, eat a kazayis of Amaitzi, and then come up.
What happens at a chasana when you wash outside the hall and they only have little pieces of
So it depends what you mean by outside the hall. If outside the
it
hall,
considered as one
if
big,
outside the hall is still within the same building, it's considered room to room. It's not a problem. Even so, the best thing is even cheder l'cheder, not to make a half-six. So a lot of Haredi halls, they have little bread baskets there that you say Amaitzi. So you made the Amaitzi right away, and there's no problem of then not eating a kazayis because it's all in the same building. But if the washing station is literally outside, and if you can't see your original place of eating, it's a problem.
Here you have the glass, it doesn't help.
What?
You can see the place you're eating, you have the glass.
Oh, you can see through, right. So very good. And you can also open the door. That's another way. If we leave the door open during the washing and everyone can see where they're going to be eating, that's fine. But through this glass, if you're eating over there, how you...
Okay.
You have to see where you're eating.
It has to be the spot.
The pashtus, you have to see where you're eating.
So if it's room to room and you're washing outside the room, you don't need to eat a kazayas there because it's still in the same...
Again? In the same room? Yeah, you can go from corner to corner.
No room. No, you said room to room.
By a chasana, when you're washing outside, which is it's the same building.
Correct.
And they have little pieces of bread that you don't have to eat a kazayas.
No, you do not have to eat a kazayas.
But here you can...
What here you can also do is just simply make your first hamaitzi right here. Take the bread with you, wash over here, have the bread over here, walk straight, and make a hamaitzi.
Well, you can't see. You got to be able to see.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Here you can see. This area you can see.
Not really.
Okay. Anyways, let's continue.
How about if you wash outside and make the Goldstein inside?
No. The Kaf HaChaim suggests that, but many Rabbanim have questioned his ruling, and I also am very puzzled by his ruling, and you should not do that, because you cannot, it's more severe to make a hefsek between the mitzvah and the bracha, or the bracha and the mitzvah, than between washing and hamaitzi. It's two separate ideas, and therefore the hefsek is less severe. But here it's a lot more severe. He suggests doing that, and everyone asks him, how does this, I would not suggest doing that. Okay, the last idea that the Mechaber here that the Ramah records regarding the famous custom of spreading out the 10 pieces of bread. So this is, of course, has Kabbalistic meaning, the 10 pieces of bread, and therefore we're very makbid in doing so. But it also has halachic meaning, and that's why it's recorded here in the Shulchan Aruch, and that is just in case you did such a good job, or the wife, or the kids, or the family did such a good job in cleaning for chametz, that your house is actually clean from chametz. There is no chametz any longer inside this home. Then what are you saying? Al bir chametz is a bachal vatala, and therefore, in order so there for certain be chametz there, therefore we put the 10 pieces of bread. This is a suggestion that's brought in Rishonim and is recorded in the Ramah and the Alter B'Shulchan Aruch. However, the final conclusion is, as writes the Ramah himself and the Alter Rebbe and the Taz, that in truth, Leima Akiv, the blessing is on the fact that you need to search. The sages never said that the bracha is on finding chametz and destroying it. The bracha is on searching for the chametz, and if you find the chametz, then you destroy the chametz. But if you haven't searched, if you don't find the chametz, you still did your mitzvah. I did my searching mitzvah. I verified that the chametz is mavur, that the chametz is destroyed from this area.
So it's not a bracha l'batala, even though it says biur chametz.
Correct. Exactly. Wow. So therefore, min hadin, you do not have to put out the funds. This will lead us then to our next discussion, which is the beginning of the next chapter, Tov Lamed Gimel, and it connects with this. We have a video?
Yeah.
Oh, whatever you do.
It's video.
Okay. So and this will lead us to our Rebbe Rasham teachings discussion. Okay. So the question is, when a person comes to check for chametz on the night of the 14th, which is this year on Thursday night, so how serious of a check must he do? Many people, they put out the 10 pieces of bread, and then they go ahead and they search for them. It's like a little, scavenger hunt. They find the 10 pieces. Everyone claps hands. Everyone's excited. You say, Kol Chamir V'Chamir, and you're done. When in truth, they didn't do bedikas chametz. Did they go ahead and they undo their closets, take out the clothing, take out the books, move the couch, move the refrigerator, empty all the drawers? They're not doing anything of that. They're doing a little scavenger hunt for the 10 pieces, and hopefully they'll find all 10, and they're done. That's bedikas chametz. So they'll tell you, what are you talking about? You think we woke up this morning and started now looking for chametz? We've been working on this for a month. We scrubbed, we cleaned, we knocked everything off. There's no chametz left in this entire home. We cleaned everything already, so why should I need to recheck everything I already cleaned? So that is our question. A person who already went ahead and cleaned his home for chametz through the preparatory time, does he have to then go back and do a bedika? So the implication of this chiddush of why we put out the 10 pieces of bread seems to imply that indeed, if you've already checked, if you've already cleaned everything, as is the Jewish custom, then you really are not chayiv anymore in a bedika because it's all clean. And if so, that's why you need to put out the 10 pieces of bread. The only problem is we actually do not rule it. We do not rule that a person is required to put out the 10 pieces of bread. It's a minhag we keep. We have Rishonim that give this reason, but that is not how we rule. So the way we actually rule is that, no, even if your house is cleaned, you still have to do bedikas chametz, irrelevant to the 10 pieces of bread. So a person who only looks for the 10 pieces of bread, he's not doing the mitzvah bedikas chametz, as bedikas chametz is irrelevant to putting out 10 pieces of bread. That's an additional factor that doesn't take the place of bedikas chametz. Furthermore, we have an explicit ruling in the Mechaber, in Tov Lamed Gimel, and in the Alter Shulchan Aruch, that a person is required to clean his home before the bedika in order so the bedika can be facilitated in a much easier and quicker manner. As if you have to start sweeping and mopping and moving everything around on the night of the 14th, you'll be there for another week. So therefore, he says, Melechatchila, the halacha is the way to do bedikas chametz is to have a preparatory cleansing of the home beforehand. So that is the instructions of how bedikas chametz is to be done. And if so, then of course, according to halacha, on the night of the 14th, you have to go back and check your entire home that was cleaned, as that was the takana of bedikas chametz. As we can't, now what's the reason? Let's now talk. Okay, we've established the point, according to halacha, that every area that has been cleaned has to be checked for chametz. Well, now let's understand, why would the chum make us do double work? I mean, I practically took off, half of the item when I scrubbed it. What chametz is there going to be on it anymore? I went through the shelves. I went through, I already swept and mopped under the couch. What chametz can there possibly be? So, some say that in the times of the Mechaber, they didn't do such a thorough cleansing. The cleaning was a basic sweeping. It was a basic, very basic level, but didn't verify and guarantee chametz obliteration. And therefore, that's why the schedule was, in addition, you must do an actual bedika. But today that we scrub and we use bleach and soap, and even if there's chametz there, it's been destroyed through that. So then it's all considered cleansed from chametz, and there is no need to do b'dikas chametz there. And therefore, they want to be melamed schus on those people who go ahead and only search for the 10 pieces of bread. Said they would have what to rely upon because they have already cleansed most of the home or the entire home in a very thorough way. However, this is where the Rebbe Rashab has his chiddush to not accept this limud schos, to not accept this chiddush. And that in truth, even if a person went ahead and he fully cleansed his home, he would still be required to do bedikas chametz. As the Chachamim made the following takana. We are not going to trust a person's cleaning of his house unless he uses light at night. A person's the validity of a check, of a cleansing of chametz, of searching for chametz, of a verification, is only valid at nighttime when you can use not sunlight but the light of electricity or the light of a candle. And even during the day, if you use light a candle, it wouldn't work. It has to be done at nighttime. That was the takana of the Chachamim, that all bedikas have to take place at night. So what we learn based on this is that it's not exactly necessary to do the checking on the night of the 14th, but it has to be done at night. So therefore, a person would have to check everything he cleans for Pesach on the nighttime, meaning you open up your light, take a look, you finish cleaning under the couch, look under, verify that your cleaning did a good job, and then put the couch back and you're done. You don't have to recheck there as you have already guaranteed that area. So on and so forth with a closet, so on and so forth with a fridge. So before you line anything, you wait till the nighttime, you look, inspect, make sure it's clean from chametz, and you're good to go. So how do we learn from the Rebbe Rashab? The Rebbe Rashab, this is a story that was told, it was written by Rabbi Yaakov Lando in his Rishimis, that the Rebbe, in Rostov, the Rebbe Rashab appointed him to clean the Pesach room. It was very close to Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and they customarily would have a Pesach room where all the products for Pesach would be stored until Pesach began, and while the rest of the house was still chametz stick. So, of course, that room had to be thoroughly cleaned, and the Bachrim, Yaakov Lando was one of them, went ahead and cleaned the room very thoroughly, and they scrubbed, and they mopped, and they, did scrub the walls, everything. And they then entered all the Pesach produce into the room. And the Rebbe Rashab then asked Rav Yaakov Lando, did you go ahead and do a bedika? And he asked him, a bedika? Why should we do a bedika? We just killed every possible chametz here. We checked, we cleaned. What do you mean bedika? What's the point of doing this weird ceremony when I've done much more, much better? So he says, no. The Rebbe Rashab told him, no. There's a takanas chachamim that you have to check with a candle in the ear, or candle, or flashlight, or electricity, whatever it is, whatever works, in the room at nighttime, and you cleaning it and scrubbing it during the day does not help. And therefore he made them take everything out of the room, undo the whole storage room, and put it back in. I once had a story like that in the army where we had a whole bunch of soldiers clean the Pesach storage, huge storage container for the Pesach goods, and they went ahead and they put the stuff in before I was able to check it, and I made them take everything out.